Hey guys, welcome back to Walking with Jesus Daily. We're in day 95. This is the milk section for day 95, and this is my second time recording it because that first one was not worth keeping. So I hope that you've spent some time in prayer. I know I have. I hope that your day so far has already been dedicated to letting God set your path and not setting your own. I hope that you're free in that, knowing that He's already seen you through the day and He's seen you through every moment. And the more control that you try to grab, then the more that you're asking for the things of this world that are not the things of the Spirit. So if you're looking for peace, stop trying to get it from this world. I still think one of the greatest quotes of any song is, I'm going to misquote it, but literally, the world did not give you joy, because true joy is a fruit of the Spirit, so the world cannot take joy from you. Okay, the world did not give you peace, so the world cannot take peace from you. That is of the Spirit. Okay, and you can work that through anything like that is of the Spirit. And we can know that to be true. So we're going to be in two different sections. One is going to be John chapter 3, 31 through 36, and the other Luke 3, 19 and 20. I will try to stay milky on this, but we're going to do just a really quick run through, remembering of what chapter 3 of John was about. The Pharisee named Nicodemus, who sat on the Sanhedrin that oversaw the Pharisees, came to Jesus by night. And it's funny then that Jesus is going to talk about darkness and light and all that stuff. But anyway, he says, we believe that, you're someone sent by God. And Jesus tells him, you have to be reborn. You have to be born of the Spirit. What's of the flesh is of the flesh, what's of the Spirit is of the Spirit. And Nicodemus is like, how in the world am I supposed to be reborn? I'm old. And Jesus makes it clear to him, of the Spirit is of the Spirit, the flesh is of the flesh. The rebirth is of the Spirit. He goes on to ask how these things can be. And he's trying to explain to him, he's like, how am I supposed to tell you spiritual things when you can't even understand earthly things, worldly things? So he compares himself being lifted up and to the serpent, the bronze serpent that Moses lifted up, that if people believed that God would save them, when they looked upon that serpent, the bites would stop, the snake bites would stop. Or wouldn't stop, but they wouldn't kill them. The venom would stop. If you didn't believe, then you chose to not believe, and you chose to take the risk, and you died. It's pretty simple. And Jesus explains to him that he is like that. He will be lifted up, and you can either believe or not believe, but those who believe will be saved, and those who don't believe will not be saved. This is where we get John 3:16 from, right? And we're going to repeat this again today in a different way. He says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. God did not send Jesus, his Son, to condemn or judge the world. This wasn't that point. God sent light into the darkness. He sent hope for all people. Yet sadly, people choose darkness. They choose themselves. And they argue with God, and they argue that why do I have to be any different way? There's a lot that goes into this, but this is people. This is what people do. God's like, I'm trying to save you here. And people are like, we're not interested, we'll save ourselves. And he's like, you can't. I don't know why you don't understand this. You're nothing. You're literally a vapor. You're nothing. So you're either coming to the light or you're not coming to the light. Then we have John the Baptist. And Jesus is baptizing in the same place John the Baptist is. Again, we make sure we know Jesus did not baptize anyone. His disciples did all the baptizing. That's mentioned later. However, people are going from John to Jesus. And his disciples and the Jews are like, what do you think of this? And he's like, yeah, that's kind of the point. I've been sent, not as the bridegroom, but as the friend of the bridegroom. I'm preparing the way for him. Of course people should go to him. The whole point of me is to send people to him. and to make a way for that to happen. And at the end of that, it says, he must increase, but I must decrease. This is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Okay, John lays it out for him. And then that's the end of the quote. Now, I can't tell you if verses 31 through 36 is John speaking, or if it's John the Baptist speaking, or if it's John the writer writing. I don't have any quotes here. I have an end quote at the end of verse 30, and no quotes at all, 31 through the end of the chapter, 36. So my belief is that this is John the writer writing. And John the Baptist did his mic drop when he said, he must increase, but I must decrease. Then we have the verse we're covering today. So let's run through this really quickly. He who comes from above is above all. That makes sense. He who is of the earth belongs to the earth and speaks in an earthly way. That's us. Okay? He who comes from heaven is above all. So we have a sandwich here of Jesus, us, and Jesus. Jesus above all, and from above and above all, and Jesus who comes from heaven is above all. And then we have us, earthly people, belonging to the earth and speaking in earthly ways. Basically making it very clear that Jesus is not like us. Yes, he is human, but he's teaching us spiritual things that only he can know, that we can't know, that we have to trust and have faith that it's true. 32, it says, he bears witness to what he has seen and heard, yet no one receives his testimony. Jesus is saying, guys, look, he's just beginning his ministry, but he's like, I literally am God and was with God and created you. Did you know that? Well, I'm telling you, it is your choice whether you want to believe it or not. I can't make you choose. But it's your choice if you want to believe it or not. Okay? If you do, there's great things waiting for you. If you don't, you're not going to like it. That's what he says. Whoever receives his testimony, whoever receives his truth, whoever receives what he's saying as truth, sets his seal to this statement: God is true. If you believe in Jesus, you believe the words that he's saying, you believe that God is true, because his testimony is about God. 34. For he whom God has sent utters the words of God, for he gives the Spirit without measure. Okay? He utters the words of God because every messenger that God has ever sent speaks the words that God sends him with. And Jesus is no different, except he's not a messenger. He's the Christ, the Messiah, the light, the way, the truth, all the thes. Okay? And it says the Father, God, gives the Spirit without measure. It's like making proper chocolate chip cookies. You measure out all the ingredients perfectly, and then you dump the chocolate chips in there without measure. Let's go. Or, okay, moving on, a taco and cheese and meat. There's no measure. It's just what can I fit in that thing, right? Pepperonis on a pizza. Everything else needs to be perfect, but man, the cheese and the pepperonis, load it up, right? Okay. Now we have the Father loves the Son and has given all things into his hand, which matches up with he who comes from above is above all. He who comes from heaven is above all, right? Now listen to this sentence. Whoever believes in the Son has eternal life. Oh, that's interesting. Whoever does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. So, if you believe, you have life. If you don't believe, you receive the wrath of God. Why not just believe? Like, what do you have against God? Why are you so prideful that you can't believe? What could it possibly hurt? Nothing to gain everything. And it's all up to you to believe. But now we have to go to Luke. I'm already over 10. I know. Just bear with me. Luke 3:19 and 20. But Herod the Tetrarch. Now, the Herod that we're talking about, there were three brothers that ruled three different places. There was Judea, there was Galilee, and there was Perea, I believe. Okay? Now, Herod the Tetrarch, who had been reproved by him for Herodias, his brother's wife, and for all the evil things that Herod did. Okay? So, real quick, we're reading about Herod the Tetrarch of Galilee. That's what my notes are saying. Okay? And John the Baptist rebuked him because he took Herod, Philip the First's wife, who apparently was also his niece. Try and act like that's not weird. So, apparently, Herod the Tetrarch of Galilee, that was the region that he ruled, took Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, who I guess ruled over Perea, who was also Herod's niece. I really don't understand how it works out, guys. I'm not here to make sense of that. I'm trying to get this done. The point being, here's how it goes. Herod the Tetrarch, who had been reproved by him for Herodias. So that means John the Baptist boldly went and told him to his face, this is wrong. You've done a lot of evil things, but this is really wrong. Right? He tells him he's wrong, and it says, and for all the evil things that Herod done, added this to them all, that he locked up John in prison. Right when Jesus and John are going at it together out there, baptizing, and John's leading right to Jesus, and what a magical moment that is. And John's like, this is great. I'm doing the will of God. I'm preparing the way for Jesus. Jesus is right before me. This is the greatest point of my entire life. And then he goes to continue to teach truth. And what happens? He gets locked up. All right. More on that in the meat. Love you guys.